every day you get the chance to update your mind with new software. Your brain's just a computer. It needs to be updated every now and again. You know, when your computer gets old and laggy and it gets really slow and bits of software stop working because they're just obsolete, they don't work anymore. Your brain is exactly the same. Way back in 2007, I read this really interesting book called The Brain That Changes Itself, written by a guy called Norman Doidge. And I found it really interesting because it chronicled stories of patients he had who had gone through massive brain trauma. And these patients, through a system that he developed, were able to rebuild their neural pathways and relearn things like speech, things like walking, movement, all this kind of thing. And there were people who were really debilitated by the accidents or the occurrences that had happened to them, who regained function through parts of the brain, or rather around parts of the brain that basically died. And that absolutely fascinated me. Because at the end of the day, what that means is you can reprogram your mind at any time. And that really got me into coaching in the first place. And what this is called is neuroplasticity. And your brain is actually doing this right now. As you're watching this video, as you're hearing these words, your brain's starting to think in different ways. You're starting to fire different synapses. You're starting to build new pathways through your brain. And it's that neuroplasticity which can help to really change your life. Think back to when you were a child, to when you're a baby. Of course, you can't think when you're a baby, but think about babies. Babies learn by updating their software pretty much hourly, don't they? When babies aren't born knowing how to walk, babies aren't born definitely not knowing how to talk, not even really knowing how to communicate. We're born as a blank canvas, and every day we go through our lives as we grow older and older, day by day, hour by hour, but for babies, we learn new bits of information, we learn how to do new things. Walking takes ages for a baby to master. Talking takes even longer. Think about anyone who's got kids out there, you know it takes a couple of years for your child to start developing enough conversation, enough words to actually have a conversation with you, and for you to be able to communicate with them and them to be able to communicate back with you. You're no different. You're no different to a baby. You're regaining or gaining new information day by day by day by day, and you can choose when you want to update your software, the software in your mind, in your subconscious mind, so that you can change your life. You can transform your life with just a software update. Now, what is that software update? Now, basically, our minds love repetition. Think back to when you were a kid. If you were lucky enough to grow up in a loving and nurturing household, which, to be honest, the vast majority of us weren't. But if you were lucky enough to grow up in that kind of environment, then what you learned, what the software that was implanted and installed in your brain, was that love and nourishment and getting everything that you need day by day, that love that you need, was a normal thing to happen. And chances are 99.9 times out of 100, you carry that forward into your life. Now, if you think about kids who came from a broken home, or maybe their parents argued all the time and they just kind of stayed together for whatever reason, that's the software that was installed into them. What they learned over time was that they didn't have their needs met. If you come from a broken home like that, you've carried that forward almost definitely into your adult life, in the thought forms of, I don't deserve it, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable. Why? Because when you were a kid, you didn't have your needs met. But you're an adult now, so you can change that. So back to that neuroplasticity. Every belief that you have in your mind has been formed because you decided it was true, usually over repetition. You were told it or you experienced it over and over and over again, and that's what you accepted to be true. But you can decide what's true. You can decide to change what you believe is true. If you don't think you're lovable enough, you can decide to change that to feeling lovable, to feeling deserving. And the way to do that is through repetition. Now, to start with, to be honest, it's not going to work. It's not going to work if you write on your mirror every morning, I am lovable. If you write it on your mirror the next morning, I am lovable. Even if you say it to yourself 100 times a day for 5 days, your subconscious mind is probably not going to accept it. However, if you keep repeating that and over again, eventually you'll break through into that neuroplasticity and you will form a new neural pathway. And that new neural pathway will be your new belief. You have to keep at repetition. Now, studies show that it takes on average 66 days for a new habit to be formed. It takes 66 days for that's interpreted. It takes 66 days for that neural pathway to be formed, so that neural pathway then becomes a habit, something that you do automatically. Now, you know this from when you take out those gym memberships at the beginning of the year. You go for a week, maybe 2, possibly 3, and then you jack it off. You're like, well, yeah, whatever, I can't be bothered anymore. We've all done it. I've definitely done it. I've started the year, most years, saying I'm going to do this year, and after a couple of weeks it peters out. But if you can keep it up for those 66 days, then the chances are that that's going to become a habit that you will keep up for life. So whatever the limiting belief is that you have, the one that's stopping you from achieving your goals, is stopping you from really going forward in your life. Now, it could be at the moment we're going through a so-called recession. We've been told we're going through that. Opinions on that, I will let you decide. But it is possible, more than possible, for you to still be successful, for you to still be happy, for you to still be abundant going through a recession, for example. And why? Because it's to do with your beliefs and your mindset. There's not less money out there, it's just not being put into the economy. So identify the limiting belief that you have. Maybe you don't think you deserve it. Maybe you don't think you're lovable enough. Maybe you think that money is just something that rich people have. Maybe you think that you'll never get anywhere in life because you just don't come from a family that has that kind of success. Whatever your limiting belief is, identify it and then choose to change it. Now, it sounds too simple, and in the beginning it is, but through that repetition of telling yourself, I am lovable, I do deserve to have success, I do deserve to be happy, I do deserve to love life and live life to the fullest. If you keep saying that over and over again, you will automatically raise your vibration, and the repetition will build that new neural pathway using neuroplasticity, which you are doing right now, and it will become eventually true. So that's the end of this video for today. I'd love to hear your comments below. Please hit the subscribe button. Hitting subscribe, hitting like gets this video out to more people, and the more people we can help, the happier we can make this planet, and the happier we can make the Mecca community. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.